All right, so I've got 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I call this meeting of the Saginaw City Council order. Please rise for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Item number 2 is the invocation. For that, Rabbi Mordecai Griffin. Welcome, Rabbi.
Let us pray. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, chokmah v'evina b'neicha be'achava. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who gives wisdom and understanding to your children in love. Grant us wisdom tonight. Grant the city council wisdom, the mayor wisdom. Grant wisdom to all participants to make godly decisions for this wonderful city. May you bless Saginaw and its citizens, all of the members of the city. Bless the chief of police, the chief of the fire station, Adonai. Bless all the workers in the city government. And may your anointing, your prosperity, your peace, your love, and your grace be shed on all of us tonight. Help us, Adonai. In your love and your mercy we pray. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Item number 3 is audience participation. That is covered on the video screen. Please silence your cell phones, devices, etc., so we can have a nice meeting. If you need to make a phone call, please exit the chamber. I'd like to welcome our folks watching online. I hope you're getting a good reception. Love to hear your comments if you can see and hear well. So please, I hope there's people watching. Also, if you want to speak on any item that is posted, you may see the city secretary. If you want to speak on a public hearing, once I call, you can just approach the diocese. So, moving forward, item number 4 is the consent agenda. A, action regarding minutes from November 19th. B is action regarding cancellation of December 19th meeting. C is action regarding interlocal agreement with Eagle Mountain Saigon ISD with the purpose of providing police services to the district. D, action regarding purchase of replacement outdoor warning siren. E, action regarding purchase of 4 replacement AEDs for city facilities. F is action regarding purchase of cardiac monitor defibrillators. And we will pull item G. H is action regarding building improvement grant with Star Adobe Quick Car. I, action regarding authorization of a contract to replace the roof at the depot building. J is action regarding approval of change order number 1 to the Saginaw manhole and pipe rehabilitation contract. So we're doing A through J except for G. We're pulling G. So I will entertain a motion for all except G.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda for all items with the exception of G for further discussion.
I'll second.
Charlie, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Let the record reflect we have a quorum. We have a full house tonight. Item G. Hold on, let me pull this up. This is action regarding Railstream, and this is Finance Director Kim Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. When the depot was occupied by the Chamber of Commerce, they had a gentleman's agreement with Railstream. This is just to formalize the same type of agreement.
Yeah, my only question is would this give us an opportunity to maybe stream the rail to our app? I think it'd be a great traffic opportunity. Be able to sit in my living room, and before I leave, I can tap onto their streaming video of what the trains are doing and say, I'll go that route versus that route. Is that a possibility?
Kim, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the camera is at the depot, and it's just focused straight out. So I'm not sure if it doesn't actually shoot at the intersections or anything like that. It's just straight out from behind the depot, is my understanding.
But this technology is out there. Is it something that we can probably partner with this same group and maybe set it up at our major rail crossings and stream that to our app, the Saginaw app? Is that something we could do? Or at least look into?
Look into, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a technology question. I don't know.
Well, I was making sure that I was addressing our technology, our de facto app guy. So
I haven't been involved in the Railstream, so I'm not sure what all is involved in that. But as far as can it be added to the app, yeah. as long as Railstream's good with it. That's why I had the deer in the headlights look.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I sprung it on you. When I saw that, I thought, man, that might be an opportunity for us to take advantage of. So if we can, maybe in the next agreement, when it comes up, look at the opportunity of partnering with Railstream and creating that eyes on the rails, if you will, for Saginaw citizens through the app. That was all I had.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions, discussion on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion for G.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve item G as presented.
Okay.
A second.
Valerie, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you, Quinn. All right, moving forward. Item number 5, recognition of Hollenstein Career and Technology Center Advanced Audiovisual Students. So, this is a pretty neat award we've got here. I think we're going to watch the video first. Is that the plan? So then we'll talk about it. So I want to see this video. This is Made in Saginaw.
The ability to take something from scratch and build it up to what it is, it's incredibly rewarding to actually get to go see something that you did exist in something like that.
Saginaw is a great workforce.
We are a family.
Saginaw is Fort-Lee.
If we've got an employee that has a personal problem that needs help, they're there for you. It's still very family-oriented.
Being part of a small family company is very, very, very rewarding. Having the people that you work for know you at an individual level is incredibly satisfying.
Saginaw is booming. Saginaw is the perfect location in DFW. Saginaw is pro-business.
Saginaw is growth.
The city of Saginaw in 1998 helped us build this building. This is probably what I'd be over our whole life in Saginaw.
All right. Awesome.
All right, so this initiative was headed by Hollenstein Career and Technology Center teacher Jorge Garza. It was a huge success. This was presented at the International Economic Development Council's annual Bronze Award in Multimedia and Video Promotion at the IEDC 2019 annual conference this fall. So we've used this to promote our city. I mean, Laura, would you like to speak a little bit how you've used this to help economic development in the city?
Sure. So a lot of times whenever I talk about Saginaw, people say they haven't heard of it before. And so I use this video whenever I'm doing recruitment to try to bring in new visitors, consumers, that kind of thing, to show a little bit about who Saginaw is. But I've also used this video for residents and existing businesses to also show who Saginaw is, because I found that a lot of people in our own community don't really know sort of the hidden gems in our industrial district. So it's been really beneficial. It's on our website. Again, I use it whenever I go recruit, whenever I'm marketing, and everyone's always very excited about it, including me.
Thank you, Laura. So I want to recognize these students, and then we're going to have a couple speakers. So Jackson Davis, please stand. Joseph Nash. Danny Wynn. Okay, you couldn't make it. Emilia Fleming. And Peter Sanger. And I cannot forget our teacher, Jorge Garza. So this is a great example of the partnerships that we are blessed to have, and especially the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. Personally, it means a lot to us, not just this effort, but all the things we get from the city, the city gets from the school district. It is unusual, talking to other mayors, to have this great a relationship. We're blessed to have this, and I'm very fortunate. I really enjoy working with the school, and this is just a great tool. I mean, we're actually using this to promote Saginaw. This is a business use for us that y'all have created. I want you to appreciate what you have done. We are fortunate and honored to have my friend, Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD Superintendent Jim Chadwell here. I think Jim would like to say a few words.
First, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity for our students to be involved. Part of education is real-world opportunities. It's one thing to be in a class and to learn things and to take tests. It's another to put all those skills to test. And our teacher, Mr. Garza, does a great job working with the students, but you have to have great students, which we do. We're very blessed. And they took this entire challenge very personal. They wanted to do a good job of really giving insight into Saginaw, opening up that door, as Alora said, to give insight into what's happening in just today. I was sharing with some people in other parts of the state about our community and about Saginaw, about the industrial core, that a lot of people don't realize how much industry is in this area and how much opportunities there are, how it brings jobs and full economy to our area. And it was really an honor for us to be able to bring that to light to others. And so thank you for the opportunity. And Mayor, I agree, the partnership that we have is we're serving the same community. The school district and the city and all of our organizations in this area, we're serving the same people, and really making that connection for our students was a great opportunity for us. So we appreciate that, and thank you. Thanks.
We have a plaque here I'd like to present, so I'd like students to meet up here, and Dr. Chadwell and I will take a couple pictures. Y'all are welcome to stay, but you may leave also. They're being polite, but that's okay. I don't think I get it. All right, moving forward. Item number 6, consideration and action regarding recommendation from the Citizen Bond Committee. For that, Travis Albritton, Citizen Bond Committee Chairman. Say welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. First, I want to thank each and every one of you for your appointments to this committee that we had. We had great deliberations, listening and looking at the presentations, and just a wonderful group of citizens that was able to sit on this committee. And thank you for that appointment. Honorable Mayor and City Council, I'll read the letter that we put together. The Saginaw Citizens Bond Committee has met a total of 6 times since September of this year to review the city's capital improvement plan. We have reviewed presentations from consultants and staff regarding finance, community facilities, which is buildings, streets, and parks. We have toured existing facilities and had the opportunity to discuss what we believe would be in the best interest of the city as a whole in preparing recommendations to you regarding long-range planning and prioritizing projects for voters to consider in May 2020 election. The committee was asked to prioritize $100 million in projects for long-range planning. At our meeting on November 18, 2019, we were able to accomplish this objective. The following list of projects were agreed upon by all attendants and is provided for your consideration. So we have that list right there. The committee is recommending to the City Council to call a bond election in May 2020 and ask the voters to approve the top 5 projects from this list. The top 5 is what we found that would be most beneficial and needed for the city, based upon what the citizens were looking at. I do want to thank the City Council for allowing us to be part of the planning process, and also thank my fellow committee members for their participation and dedication to helping make Saginaw a better place to live and work and play. So I'll go ahead and say who our committee members were. We had a committee member, Pat Shelton, Brack St. Clair, David Jones, Monica Dixon, Rick Russell, Don Cromwell, Katherine Johnson, Siobhan Liley, Tim Miller, Jane Lyon, Stephen Watson, and Chuck Inman. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Council, questions? Cindy?
First of all, Travis, I can't thank you and the committee enough for, taking time out of your personal lives and away from your families to take on this humongous task. I'm concerned about the cost of the Central Fire Station. $14.5 million is an awful lot of money. And were you able to do any comparisons with other fire stations in the area that are recently built and compare what we're building here to what they have over there, square foot wise, amenity wise, price wise?
Well, I did do some research, and we did bring it up within the committee itself, about some projects that were done locally and in the state of Texas in comparability to the size of the building and how many bays they were putting in. And it was significantly lower. But
ours was, or theirs were?
Theirs were.
Theirs were, okay.
But of course, this was just a projection that was given to us based on the price per square foot. We did have the luxury of having one of the fire chiefs from Keller on part of our committee, and he did do some pricing on what fire stations we're going for right now, price for square foot. And he said we were pretty, our projected cost was kind of like in line to that. But that was, I think that was one of the main talking points about the improvements that we were looking at, was the cost that was associated with these things. We knew that there's a need for it, but definitely we were hoping that we would come way under that budget amount. For
So
sure.
do we.
For sure.
So do we. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I do.
Sure, Valerie.
Okay, so Travis, I know that she's kind of stole my question there, but my concern is that we are trying to beautify the boulevard, which is a good thing, and so I don't understand why we couldn't consider beautifying that fire station. It's part of our history, and I'm kind of worried about that because that's a lot of money, and I support the firemen in the police very much, but I just wondered if maybe, I don't know, I feel as a council member, I think the citizens, I think it's kind of, I don't know, it's way out of the ballpark.
It's definitely a big number.
And did y'all go with like the Citizen Summit and all those things that the citizens actually wanted?
We did review over the summit, and of course, the fire station's not really on there. But we were looking at also the needs of what the city needs as well, because the citizens really don't know what's going on behind the scenes at the fire station.
Well, I'm curious because the new fire station will be so much bigger, but as we grow, we're not going to get any more fire trucks or anything. They might be newer models, but we're not going to increase the number of them, are we, Doug?
Well, it's hard to know where we're going to go in the future. Knowing the size projections, we could be in the ambulance business at some point. We're undersized now for what we need. So fire station we have now doesn't accommodate all the equipment. That's why a lot of it's parked outside. So we need something bigger. And in the event we get into the ambulance business, we would need a place to house ambulance vehicles inside the fire station. So we do need to accommodate for that in any building we build. This is a
I'm
50-year
just
building,
real
so.
concerned because of the cost and everything. I think that we need some more tax dollars to do this. So, yeah, okay.
Patrick?
I just have a few comments. First, thank you all. This was an elephant, I'm certain, for you guys to look at it and say, man, how do we dice up out of, there was probably $220 to $250 million worth of project opportunities that were out there. And then we ask you guys to look at just $100 million because, quite frankly, we can't see past a 10-year horizon up here, and $100 million is about all we can do. And that's what we all agreed on, and that's what our mission was to you. And we really appreciate you guys paring it down to this. I am in agreement with Valerie that the costs are pretty high. Market right now is not friendly to the buyer. I would say the parametric or the cost per square foot that we are looking at is pretty reasonable for the Metroplex. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at things outside the Metroplex, you're probably getting a little bit better deal on things. But building it right here at home, everybody's busy, and they're really not looking for work. So you're going to pay a premium. I think it's smart to budget high and hope for low. In that same thought process, I think that we, as I mentioned very early on, we need to consider taking these top 5 projects seriously and building them out over the next 5 years, but looking at all 8 in terms of having them planned and shovel-ready as soon as possible. And the reason for that, I don't know how many of you have been in discussions that we've had in the room, is that markets cycle. Mm-hmm. And when we're in a down market, that's the best time to buy things.
Absolutely.
And if we've got the plans ready to go to the street and take it to the marketplace, we can throw it out there, we can lock it in, and we can build it. So I'm encouraged by what you guys have ranked. I have to tell you that it was a ringer for, I saw it was out of left field to see that you guys saw the importance of the buffer road on the east side of the tracks. And it actually made it into the top 8 priorities. I would never have thought that. But it's 8. It is important for the circulation. The bird streets, as we've referred to them, down there on the south side, closer to McElroy, there are folks, when school's in, I'm sure there are at least 100 homes that it takes 10 minutes to get out of that subdivision. So we've got a lot of projects that I would like to see planned, stuck in the drawer, and if we do have a downturn in the economy, we've got them ready to pull out of the drawer and ready to build. So as we're thinking about this first bond issue, I certainly want us to be thinking about what can we do to ensure that all 8 projects are at least planned. Right. And they're ready to take to the street. Not just plan the first 5 and then wait to the next bond issue to start planning the last 3 that you've put on here. So I think that's really important. There's opportunity for us to save some money, I'm certain, in our price per square foot on fire station. There may be some opportunities for us to pick up some funding options with partnerships and things of that nature that came to you very late in the process. Too late for you to digest and completely understand the opportunities. But we're still talking about $57 million. And I think that we have capacity now for 40 without raising the rate. 57 is going to raise the rate. So if we're going to raise the rate, we need to be able to show something. Mm-hmm. So that's where my head is right now. What do we do to show at $17 million worth of raising the rate in the next 5 years? Right. And I think a lot of that is in partnerships, it's in reducing cost, and it's taking advantage of planning those last 3 in this first package. That's really all I had. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I will emphasize, if it's okay,
sure.
On the parks improvement, we were presented a lot of information on the parks. And, I mean, we do feel as part of the committee itself that we have a parks board here, so why not allot them a certain amount and say, spend what you need to spend in the certain areas of the parks. Of course, come to the council with their presenting of what they want to do. But the parks board itself already has so many different things that they want to see happen inside of the park. So instead of just going by and looking at the whole big picture of what concepts they want to do in the parks, we just allotted a certain budget that we wanted to go toward that for the Parks Board to go ahead and look at the different improvements they want to
So
do.
allow the Parks Board to prioritize the projects?
Correct.
Excellent. No, I think it's a great idea. Very good. Mr. Beasley, any questions? I did have a question for you, sir. So you broke up Knowles in 2 and 6. Tell me the thought process of why y'all broke up Knowles into two different.
Well, we found that the first part of Knowles should be listed higher on the demand of projects that need to be done because of the flooding issue that's over there. The other two parts, I mean, it's workable the way it works, of just the concept of maybe putting in roundabouts, and of course there's some adjustments that need to be made right there at the light, but in prioritizing the needs of what needs to happen, we looked at the flooding and the issues that's going on in Knowles right now, and over time that's going to be a big issue for the city. So we found that prioritizing that up there and breaking it apart a little bit would be a better fit. And by talking to one of our guys that was in there, I don't even know their names at the time, talking to one of them, Rick, I had to find him, Rick, that it was okay. I mean, the way that was planned, it would work perfectly by doing that. So
I just want to understand what you thought. And
Yeah.
It sounds very reasonable. My other question is talk about the combination library senior center. Talk about your thoughts on that.
Well, we were presented with the option of possibly putting in the senior center, attaching it to the rec center, and, you know, thinking of the cost measures and things like that. I mean, I've had the privilege of talking to some of the seniors that live here in the city by where I work, and consensus of what I was finding from them, they like the idea of being closer to the kids more than being with the adolescents. So looking at different things that cities have done by building the combination of, you know, the library and the senior center seems like a better fit for our community. And we know that there's a need for the seniors. And we wanted to be able to show that if we're putting in these cost measures of what we're trying to divide out, we want to be able to show that we are looking and focusing in on all aspects. If it's our seniors, the library, touring the library, we know there's a need for that from the space that they're outgrowing. So looking at the cost, if we had to do it, it looked more reasonable putting those two together than adding it on to the space on the back of the rec center.
Thank you. Excellent. Good work. No, and I do appreciate y'all's hard work. I know this is not an easy task we laid before you. It was a big task, but thank you. And thanks to everybody on the committee. I really appreciate y'all's hard work.
Thank you.
It's a good thing. Council, any other questions? Mary?
Thank you again for your hard work. It sounds like you all did a lot of research and study, and you made some field trips and had some speakers and really had a lot of information to go by. My feeling is that having the fire station as the first priority is appropriate. And a lot of people don't understand that fire station does flood during heavy rains. I believe it's over 50 years old. Short of 50. It's difficult to get out onto Saginaw Main Street. A lot of people don't understand also that our firefighters, actually 80%, I believe, of their calls are for health-related issues. Is that correct, 80? Your number of calls that you go out on are mostly health-related. About 70%. So we don't know. We don't get a report to say what they did, but many of us have gone on ride-alongs with them, and one day I was there for just about 2 hours, and they had 4 calls, and they were all medically related. So they save lives on almost a daily basis, and we don't realize that. And it is not appropriate for us to ask them to work out of those unacceptable conditions that exist today. So I just wanted to put a plug in for agreeing with the fire station being the first priority. And I think you all did a great job on the rest of the list.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions? Yes, Cindy.
I didn't want to ask too many questions at one time, so looking at number 3 and 4, combination library, senior center, and then renovate existing library and city hall complex. Could you explain the difference between the two libraries in those items, and what, I know that the projections that we looked at are not looking at a large number of people coming to City Hall over the next 10 years. Why the City Hall complex made it to this list?
Well, ultimately, looking at the list that we put together, if we're going to do a combination senior center, we have to do something with the building. We can't let it sit there vacant. And but the rest of the committee, we looked at putting together in an action plan of, if we get this done, then we need to get this done, and that type of order. And moving what we were looking at for City Hall will be where permits and planning will go into, moving some of those offices from where Public Works is into this building and renovating it and attaching it to be part of City Hall. Now, I teased with them, I'm like, for $5,800,000, I can get Chip and Joanna Gaines in here and probably get it a lot cheaper looking at their TV show. But, I mean, those costs ultimately, that's something you guys can look at based upon what they're wanting to do. But if we are going to do a combination senior center, we have to renovate that area for some use for the city.
Okay, so you're going to repurpose that building?
Correct, yes,
okay.
ma'am.
I wasn't quite clear with that.
And it was looking at, and we were under the understanding of moving some of Public Works, like the permits, their meeting area where they have to go to the back of the building, to where individuals who come in and they want to do business with Saginaw, they have a very nice area to go to be able to do business with us.
And that was going to be one of my questions, too, because Public Works is probably one of the worst conditions buildings that we have in the city.
Right.
And I was surprised that they weren't on the list.
Well, and what we were looking at in some of the renovating existing library and city hall complex, we were talking about if some of that budget, if there was some flood over from that, being able to do some enhancements that need to be done to Public Works building. But ultimately, how we broke it into these parts, that was high on our agenda too, that we want to be able to clean up some of that area that's there in Public Works building and make it more feasible for them.
Yeah. I know, I can't remember the gentleman's name that came and spoke to us, the municipal planner, was wanting to put 1,000 square foot building between the existing city hall and library at a cost of $400,000, you know, and I was appalled by that. You know, you guys can walk in the weather for 10 feet. But,
or you can put an awning. But, you know, that's totally like when we looked at these things.
I didn't know if you were able to scratch out some of those.
Well, we really didn't.
High cost things or not.
As part of the committee, we looked at the need of what we're wanting to see, not too much digging into, okay, well, let's make sure we put a boardroom over here, or looking at the costs for different things to that. Ultimately, of course, they say that they budget high for this, but for a renovation project, I do think that's kind of high, but I'm not an architect. I'm a banker. So
yeah, but you loan money to these guys.
I don't do that, but that's okay. So for some of the projects that they said that they wanted to see, ultimately that's some of the things that you guys as a city council can nix from the project or change those, amend those things. But we know that if we do something to one building, we have to renovate and use that building for another purpose for the city.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so I think, thank you, sir. I appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you.
So I think our next step, I'd like the council to mull this over, take some time to think about this, ask some questions to staff, get more information, and then we will have a workshop in, Dolph?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to remind the council of some important dates.
Yeah.
For a May 2nd, 2020 election, the earliest date that the council could call for that election is February the 2nd. the last date to call for that election would be February 14th. The only scheduled meeting we have between those dates is February the 4th. So what we have done, and the schedule I put together back in April, is we've pushed the Citizens Bond Committee pretty hard to get this information before y'all tonight, to give y'all the rest of December and all of January to discuss and workshop these items and see what you'd like to take before the voters. Should you decide to wait till November to call an election, I have those dates as well. The earliest you could call it would be August 4th. The last date to call would be August 17th, and that would be for a November 3rd election date.
Thank you, Doll.
You said August 17th?
It would be one heck of a turnout.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
It would. I'm afraid it might get swallowed up in the noise, though. So let's mull this over, ask some questions, and then let's workshop this both meetings in January. Okay. Let's the council workshop this item and get it all pared down, and we can vote on the first meeting in February. Does that sound like a reasonable plan to everybody? So I'd like you to, council, think about this and ask questions to staff, to Gabe, to whomever over the next month to get the information you need to make a good decision when we roll into January. So.
I do have one question,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor.
Sure.
Could we get a breakdown of what the tax rates or the tax increases for the citizens are going to be? If we go with the 40 million, if we go with the 1 through 5, if we go 1 through 8. Could you get that for us, please?
I can give you a rough idea now. We can talked about the 40 million we feel fairly comfortable with without having to raise the rate. For each penny on the tax rate on the debt service side, you generate an additional 1.3 million. So you can take those numbers and extrapolate what it would be for another 10 million in construction dollars, or 20 or whatever. But 1.3 million for every penny you add to the debt service portion of the rate.
So for 57, that would be just under 12 cents. 17,000.
I believe we were looking at
17
19 cents total.
Yep. Okay.
19 cents.
Okay.
That's a big jump.
But that's just for the city tax rate. That's not going to be for the other school district and JPS and Tarrant County and all
That's
those
correct.
other things. But that tax rate would still apply to those? Okay, that's different. All right.
Only
thank you.
applies to the debt portion of the city's tax rate.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I don't believe there's any action we need to take on this item. So unless there's any questions, we will move forward and we can workshop this in January. And so that's item number 6. Item number 7. Consideration action regarding contract approval for retail market analysis with the retail coach. For that, Alora.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this evening you have before you a contract for services with the Retail Coach. We have Aaron Farmer here. He's president at the Retail Coach. I've known him for a while. He is a local to the area, so he probably has some good stories growing up around here and going to JRs. He has previously worked with the city in 2016 to provide sort of a retail trade analysis, but since that time with technology, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but there are some incredible things that can be done to accurately represent the actual retail trade market in Saginaw. And so a lot of times whenever I'm doing recruitment, I'm talking to businesses that say, okay, well, give me your data, give me your numbers. Is this a market I want to go into? And a lot of that data comes from reports that are vague, they're assumptions. They're based on either city boundaries or zip codes. They're not really based on who is driving in and shopping at our stores. And so the Retail Coach, through this contract, has the ability to kind of solve that problem for us. And I really think it's going to take our recruitment game for retail and restaurants to the next level. So I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
All right, thanks, Laura. Mayor, Council, it's good to be here again. We actually first started working with Saginaw back in 2011. So
I say welcome back. I remember you before. Absolutely.
Exactly. So I recognize some of you here today. So it's good to be back. As Laura said, times have changed. No matter what news agency you listen to, retail's changing. You probably have noticed that. Some have talked about it as being the retail apocalypse. Brick and mortar retail going away and really those sort of things, which is not not really the true story of what's happening. Retailers, restaurants, developers, they're still doing deals, they're still expanding, but they're needing access to more reliable data. They're relying on communities to get them this data on what your market looks like. So I put together a short presentation, and I'll just kind of jump into that real quick. Just so you know a little bit about our firm, The Retail Coach. We do most of our work here in Texas. We've been doing this for about 19 going on 20 years now. I've been with the company now for about 13 years. As I mentioned, we had done some work back in 2011. I led up that project back then and have a good understanding. I grew up in Keller, had family that lived in Saginaw, went to JRs and other things that was mentioned through the years. But this is what your project team would look like. This is not I'll tell you, it's not a huge project, but we focus the right people and the right team on these projects. So I would be the lead. Kelly Kofer is our CEO. He would also be part of this project and understanding this. Kelly was part of the project back then. And then you can see some of our support staff. But what this really looks at is the retail market analysis. We've seen things happen here. We've seen things change. New housing come in, not just in Saginaw, but in your surrounding areas. We've seen new retail. We've seen new development come in, again, not just in Saginaw, but in your surrounding areas as well. And the question is, how has that changed what your opportunities are? What is your retail trade area size? How many people are shopping at Walmart, for example? How many people are shopping at other stores that are here, or other restaurants? So what we want to look at is really updating that analysis for you. Laura and I have talked for several years now, and most recently about Saginaw, about the opportunities that exist here. Is it redevelopment opportunities, maybe along Saginaw Boulevard, where you have some properties maybe on the south side that are not serving their highest and best use? Maybe some properties up on the north side, where you have some opportunities for some new development and other corridors throughout the community. So just to kind of give you an update here, you can see on the screen here, this is what we had done. This is just a flyer we had put together. But the yellow area there on the map is what we had defined as the retail trade area. These, again, this is 3 or 4 years ago. These are where your consumers were coming from to shop and eat in Saginaw. So much larger than the city limits. You've got them coming in. The way that we did this back then was we did a license plate study. You might remember that, but we would drive around. We had multiple people doing this. It was kind of like the Google cars, if you've seen those, of the Street View. We would have these cameras mounted on our cars, and we would drive up and down all of your different shopping centers, your different businesses. And then we could tell a license plate number based off of that, and then tie that to an address. So that's how we came up with that trade area there. I love it because I hated doing those. It was tedious having to go, make sure you weren't going to run into anybody or do something like that. But nowadays, we're using cell phone technology. So if you have a cell phone, which is most of us, and some of us have 2 cell phones, it's kind of scary to think about, but you're being tracked on a regular basis. And not necessarily in a bad way, but so that retailers and developers know who are their customers, where are they coming from, and those sort of things. So you'll see on the screen here, this is what we call a heat map. And I just pulled this as an example. But what this does is, this is the Walmart. I just took the Walmart. It has your biggest draw in the community. The darker the red is the higher the concentration of consumers. So it shows us what neighborhoods are shopping, really specifically what households are coming here. This is the kind of data that retailers, restaurants, developers need. If they're going to locate a store in Saginaw, they've got to know where their customers are coming from. So this is the technology that we use. We can run it on any business within the community. So it could be a business that has 1 employee, or it could be a business that has 100 employees. We can track who's coming in and out of that business on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, and yearly basis. You can see on the screen here, for example, your Walmart has 333,000 consumers in the last 12 months, or it has had 333,000 consumers. And those consumers have made 2.5 million visits. So you're having a lot of repeat business. 333,000, that's a pretty strong number as far as who's shopping there. We can also tell on the top right of the screen here, you'll kind of see, we can tell what are the busiest times of the day. So we can tell, roughly, you're pretty even from really 1 o'clock until noon to 7. You've got a pretty constant flow of consumers coming in there. We can also tell on the bottom left of the screen, we can tell what routes they're taking to get to certain areas. So we can see what are those traffic counts. We can see those sort of things. And we can tell where your consumers are going after they shop at these stores. So this market analysis is going to help us understand who is that consumer, what are their opportunities. We're going to look at demographics, 2020 demographics is what we're looking at already. So we're not waiting for the census. We're already using projections. We're going to look at psychographics. We're going to look at the workforce and the daytime population. And that's key when it comes to restaurants, is having a strong daytime population. Typically, they know they can do well in the evenings, but what they question is during the day, can they be successful? What I noticed, just taking a quick look yesterday, your daytime population has increased actually pretty substantially over the last 5 to 7 years. So even since we last ran some of this data, I think that's going to be a big part of this process. And then we're also going to look at something called a gap analysis or a leakage analysis. And y'all might remember that from years ago, but the leakage analysis tells us how much money is leaving Saginaw and being spent outside of the community. So we look at 75 sectors, roughly, everything from sporting goods to casual sit-down restaurants. You name it, there's a category that fits into there, and we're able to determine a specific quantifiable amount that's leaving on a yearly basis. And just taking a quick look at Saginaw, you've got a lot of leakage. You've got people that come in, but you also leave for certain things, just because we've heard from some that you just can't buy everything here. You can't find everything you need here. So you've got leakage that's occurring, but we'll be able to quantify that, which will be helpful, Laura, as you're targeting specific prospects to come in. And then all of this we'll put into an interactive platform. So it'll have a kind of a standalone data website. It can be a standalone, or it can also go on the existing economic development website. The first place retailers, developers, investors look is your website, and you want to make sure that you've got this data, this information ready to go. So it's we put it in the way they want to see it, and we do that. So that's, I think, my presentation for today. But just wanted to kind of update you on that, kind of get your thoughts, see if there were any questions, and let you know we're ready to get started when you all are.
Council, questions? Cindy?
I'm a data person.
Awesome.
Can you tell how long an individual stays inside of a store, or can you tell if that person is just passing through the Walmart parking lot, which would be me, rather than going into the store itself?
Yeah, we actually absolutely can. So we can tell what is the average stay that somebody has within a Walmart. And when we do that, we try to, we will typically include parking lots, because typically the average consumer that's in a parking lot, like for Walmart, they're there for a reason. They're going in there. But we're able to track consumers, and we can tell if you didn't go in, if you just kept going. So we absolutely can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Patrick?
Yes. So I'm seeing 3,500 here. Forgive me for saying this, but that's like reverse sticker shock. So
Sure.
Can you tell me what is the deliverable for 3,500?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of deliverables. Right now you're getting data is what you're getting. So you'll get roughly, we've talked about 5 to 7 cell phone analysis. So that'll be kind of a standalone interactive map where we can go in and we can see who's coming in, how long they shop there. That'll cover a 12-month period. So we can go back in time. So basically from today or whenever we get the chance to work with you, we'll go back 12 months. We'll have the cell phone analysis. We'll determine that trade area, the retail trade area. We'll have that map, and then we'll run demographics on that. So demographic reports, the gap analysis report, and then the standalone website is what you would be getting. So a lot of reports, a lot of data. Laura and I have talked about what we do, and what she does is much more than data. Now, once you have this data, you have to go out and do that. You have to do the recruitment. So, we'd like the opportunity to present this data to you after it's complete and kind of bring you up to speed on that, and then possibly talk about working together at some point to do a recruitment strategy and actually us work on your behalf to help Alora and the rest of your team with recruitment. So right now you're just getting data. So we do have we've had a long-term relationship with you. If we were coming in on a new project, a community we weren't familiar with, didn't know anything about, you would be looking at a higher cost, but we have, I guess, the bones in place, if that makes sense, or the base in place. We're not having to recreate the wheel necessarily.
So in addition to the heat map,
sure,
which essentially shows us where shoppers are coming from and where they're concentrating,
right,
we're getting a gap report and a leakage report?
You are, yeah. And then full demographic analysis of those consumers. So not just saying where they're coming from, but what their ages are, what their incomes are, how many times they shop there, and really, I mean, a number of different data points that retailers and developers want to see.
and it will be formatted in a way that we can use it as marketing material.
Absolutely. And I didn't hit on it, but we're going to also put together a marketing flyer for you. So a front and back retail market profile. We've done 2 or 3 of those in the past for you. We have a new design for that, and that would also be included in it as well. But it's all in a format that Alora and her team will be able to take and really use it, not just necessarily for retail, but for other recruitment as well.
I can't imagine why we wouldn't spend the $3,500 for that. So
I actually asked Gabe, why are we bringing $3,500 to council? It's for such a need. So.
I can answer that.
Sure.
As you know, in the charter, all contracts through the city have to be approved and authored by the mayor. So this is a contract in this.
It's a contract.
Yes.
Okay. Council, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the contract for these services as presented.
Second.
A second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed?
All right, thanks. We'll see you again soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Aaron.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura. Moving forward, at 6:50, we're in a public hearing. Consideration action regarding approval of a request for a specific use permit to allow a daycare facility on Lot 30, Block 2, 912 North Old Decatur Road. And for that, Director of Public Works, Rick Trice.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. With your permission, I guess if Clay would like to pass out some documents to the dais while I speak, and then he will go forward with the application. Again, this is a piece of platted property at the corner of Boaz and Old Decatur Road.
Thanks, Clay.
It's currently zoned neighborhood commercial under planned development. Ultimate land use plan also designates it the same, neighborhood commercial under planned development. And this use, a daycare, requires a specific use permit to allow that within a neighborhood commercial zoning. Planning and Zoning Commission considered the special use permit on November 12th. There were a number of revised site plans before that meeting and since that meeting. They had a number of questions. There were some outstanding comments, outstanding comments from staff review that were not resolved totally at the time of Planning and Zoning Commission. Those are listed in the council memo. 2 of those comments were somewhat substantial: the drainage study with site detention, and also the landscape plan. So since that time, Clay Christie's firm has submitted the revised drainage study and landscape plan, and it meets all city requirements. When the Planning and Zoning Commission met and discussed the item, they had a discussion on several items. In addition to the outstanding comments, there were concerns about the adequacy of the parking that was provided in the plan. I guess a number of the commissioners had experience with daycare facilities in other cities where in perhaps special events they had overflow parking that went into the street, in this case Boaz, Old Decatur. So they were concerned about that phenomena happening in this particular plan. Clay may be able to address that. We looked at the site plan and also the building layout plan. I guess those special events would be like Meet the Teachers or programs that might occur at a daycare facility. There really isn't today in their building plan facilities for that sort of activity. So the parking requirement exceeds the city's requirement by 2 or 3 spaces. So although the Planning and Zoning Commission denied the request by a vote of 3-2, staff is recommending staff is recommending approval. Because they denied it, does require a supermajority of the council to approve the request. So unless you have any questions of that, I'd like to introduce Clay Christie, who can kind of go through the proposal.
Good evening. Clay Christie, Claymore Engineering, 1903 Central Drive. Thanks, Rick, for the quick rundown and kind of summary of where we were at P&Z. We did, whenever we were set forth in P&Z, we had quite a few different comments. We responded more in a text format or response type format. And whenever we got there specifically in relation to drainage and those answers, I know we didn't have all the down to the nit-gritty answers for everybody, which left some people feeling uncomfortable. Since then, we've worked with Rick and his team to come back through. We've done the engineering on it. The TLE, they do want to be here. They wanted to get the answers to you guys. And so in that, what we did is we've addressed the drainage, we've addressed all that, we've gone through the analysis. We have drainage plans that were included in there on how we're going to provide attention, a little bit more to the specifics of that. Also, in regards to the landscape plan, we had landscaping and landscaped areas called out, but we didn't have the specific exact plants and the trees and all that. Whenever we were at P&Z, since then we have revised that. And what I just handed to you guys is actually another revision to the landscape plan. We worked with Larry and talked with him, and the only difference between the landscape plan that was included in your packet and the one that I handed out today is, in working with Larry, we discovered we were 4 understory trees short, and so we've added those in. And so we now meet the requirements for the landscaping that we have before you. Talk about TLE a little bit more. TLE stands for the learning experience. What it is it's a children's daycare. They're a nationwide group that manages daycares across the deal. Each one is owned and operated individually by an owner-operator that is local and that is here. It's not ran by somebody else, but in order to develop or come in and use that, they use the learning experiences, their background, their knowledge, their facility, their training programs, so that they don't just have, it's not essentially a single, like if the person was trying to do it themselves, they wouldn't be on their own. They have access to, the curriculum and the director, so that they have, hey, here's the latest on, child development for ages 2 through 4. They have specific training for that. They have support for their staff, so that somebody's not going out and just trying to do a construction project on their own to build a daycare. They provide all that support. And so that's what we're here today presenting to you guys, is a complete child care facility that's regarding that. I know the last thing that Rick brought up was special events, and I talked more and more with the TLE folks about this, and I know that got brought up a lot when we were in P&Z. The learning experience, and this is kind of what I told them at P&Z as well, the learning experience, they don't have that many. They don't have like a big, graduation ceremony where they have all the groups come up and they go one at a time or anything like that. They don't really have those large. They do have smaller, itemized meetings, like Rick said, meet the teacher. Well, anytime they have a new year, if you want to go in and meet the teacher, they do have that. But what they do is they stagger those times. So on, at one point in time for the new kindergarten folks, their meet the teacher is from, say, 3 to 5. And then kindergarten to first grade can be 5 to 6, so that they can utilize their parking that comes in and out, so where everybody doesn't show up at once, everybody doesn't leave at once. It's a staggered deal, so people come and go, and they try to stagger that appropriately so what they have. And I went back and I talked to the TLE folks and confirmed, and we've ran all their numbers, because they do have access to the schools, and from the East Coast to the West Coast where they're located. And from an operating, for a building this size, they do have bigger ones that they have, but for the 10,000 square foot that we have right here, what they do have is it's about 40 parking spaces. Is their operational procedures, we have 41, and they're comfortable with what they have for an operational standpoint for how that would operate. And so I think that kind of did a lot of talking, but hopefully that kind of came through a couple of the different points. More than happy to openly discuss any questions that you guys might have regarding the TLE, or if there's any other concerns. We definitely want to visit with you guys about those and try to see if there's what we can do to answer anything that you guys might need.
Council, questions? Cindy?
I know that we have Willow Creek Elementary, and then we have the charter school, the ILT, and now we're going to have this daycare. We hear citizens complain all the time, especially at the beginning of the school year, about the horrific traffic issues. I know that special events are going to be staggered, but what sort of conflict are we looking at, or contribution to the traffic problem that we currently have?
Correct. So with a daycare versus an elementary, they operate very differently. And the fact that whenever you have an elementary, what happens? They have buses, people go in line. I mean, my wife does the same thing. You get in a line, and you sit there, and whenever they get up, they open the door, kick the kids out. They go on, and you get stacking that goes all the way out into the streets and everywhere and causes problems. Well, with TLE and the daycare facility, they actually did it a little bit differently. The first thing is that they don't have a start time. You know, at school, everybody's going to be there at 8 o'clock, 7:45, whatever it is that the class starts, so everybody hits that same start time. Whenever you have a daycare facility, it's a little different in the fact that the majority of the drop-offs, they start at 6 o'clock, and usually the later part of their drop-offs end at about 9:30. That's their typical whenever kids come in. So there's almost a 3-hour difference of whenever parents are coming in and dropping off. The second thing here is there's not a drop-off line. Every parent has to park, every parent has to take their kid, and everybody has to go in. They have different mechanisms for what they do in the building, but there's actually secured access into the building where you go type in your code, or you have your access to where you go in so that they log that your children are actually there. You walk them in, you go take them to class, and you come out. So from a traffic standpoint, all the cars, they do park inside the facility. You know, it doesn't take the parents more than 5 minutes to park, walk their kids in, go back to their car and move on so that traffic can move in and out. But it's not everybody rush in at 7:45 to beat the tardy bell at 7:47. So.
And do we have a light at that intersection? I think we do.
Correct.
So,
At the corner of Old Decatur and W.J. Bose, there's a light, yes.
Mary has a question.
Please go ahead.
And as far as pickup times, those would not correspond with public school pickup times, most likely.
So, correct. Most pickup times, actually, a lot of times, what happens is that kids sometimes from the public schools actually get transferred and can be taken to a place like TLE for after daycare for the parents who work. And so pickup times are typically, they start at about 4 o'clock on average. Some parents pick up earlier, but they see the majority of theirs starting at about 4:30, and then that goes to 6:30. And then, you know, they're not going to close the doors on any kids, but 6:30 is their time that they tell that everybody needs to have their kids picked up. Yes, ma'am. So, you know, majority of the people are somewhere between 5 and 6 because they're getting off work. If they're local and really close by, they can stop in, and it's a few minutes after 5. Other people that have to, you know, if they drive to Fort Worth or they drive somewhere out and they're coming back in, it takes them a little bit longer. That's why they stay open until 6:30.
And do you know how many children would be in attendance? At, say, the maximum, maybe?
So there is a maximum based on the occupancy in the building and what that is, and I believe that it's about 190 total is what that is per the occupancy by the state.
How many?
190. However, obviously, whenever they first start up, and the full occupancy of that is, you know, that takes growth, that takes time, it takes establishment there. We wouldn't be close to that whenever they start out. It'd probably be about half that is what it would be started at. But from a permitting standpoint, to be at the state, you file all your documentation for the size of the building and the occupancy load based on that, and that's what determines how many kids. And we break it down by, you know, each grade level, because each staff member, like for infants, you have to have so many staff per infant. It's like 1 staff per 4 infants. You have to have a staff. But then whenever you go to some of the older age kids, you might be able to have 1 staff member per 20 students. And so that's kind of a moving number as it goes along. And it actually varies day by day, because just like with the daycare, that 190 students that goes in there, but, you know, some parents only do the whole week, and they do Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I myself have young children, and they go there Tuesday, Thursday. And so they're there only 2 days a week, but they have that extra capacity. So for those 2 days, they might have on Tuesday, Thursday, they may have a few more children than what they have throughout the week, or they also do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So there's a 3-day or 2-day option, things of that nature. There's also the after-school care where, you know, the kids, after they get out of school, they come over and they're there from, you know, whenever school gets out at, you know, 3 to 3:30, whenever they get taken over there and transported over there, and their parents pick them up at 6.
And do you know how long this particular company has been in this business?
The learning experience, I don't know whenever they started to be, I don't know the exact origination of it. They are a nationwide, they're East Coast to West Coast. I know they have over a couple thousand different franchises throughout, you know, from Florida all the way out to California, that they have quite a few operating facilities throughout the whole entire U.S. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Val?
I have a few things.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
I own a daycare. I've had it for 31 years, but.
Okay.
So most of my parents, because it's a daycare, they drop off between 7 and 9 because they have to go to work, which is right during the school times. And then they usually pick up anywhere from 4 to 6, like you said. Most of them are closer to 4 to 5. And so, and it's 190 students or 190 kids going there. And it usually takes about 10 minutes to drop off a kid because you got to go in and give them to the teacher and everything. So I am concerned about the traffic. We need more daycares here in Saginaw. We could fill 3 of them up, okay, with the kids we have. But I'm really worried about the traffic right there. And it's kind of dangerous right there on the corner with the kids, you know, and the school kids and everything. So y'all are going to house from infants to schoolers, are you? Okay. Yeah. I'm just worried about the traffic.
Understand.
That's a lot of, I mean, you figure 190 parents are going to come drop their kid off.
Correct.
Or even if you just took half of that, and put the other half at school, there's a
multiples
lot.
that are there,
And
then
you've
there's
got 41 parking spaces.
And there's after-school kids that get
And there's-
transported from
yeah.
the school, so they're not even getting, the parents don't drop them off. They get transported, you know, via transportation
Yes,
to
through a
there.
bus, but they got to
and
be
they're-
picked up by
They
their
do have
parents.
to be picked up.
My thought is like Willow Creek, when they all drop them off, they're parked on the side of the street. We have to have a police officer there sometimes running traffic, and I'm afraid we're going to have it there. That intersection right there is pretty busy anyway because of the traffic ongoing already.
And I
And
definitely
you've got
think that-
40 parking spaces, and they're going to be pulling across the street.
And we'd be more than willing to-
Walking across, that's what worries me.
We've talked with Rick and them about the traffic. I mean, as far as like parking along Boaz and and Old Decatur, we know that that's not an option for that. And as far as if there's anything as far as posting a no parking sign to help and emphasize that, or having people out there talking to them, I mean, I know that, you know, we've worked on a couple different things on, you know, writing a ticket. It takes them once or twice getting a ticket, and then they learn not to do it too. But that's not what I'm saying. I don't want to enforce
No, I
or
know.
create more impose anything on that. But I know the TLE would be more than happy to incorporate that. So whenever every student comes in, they have kind of like, you know, to sit down with a parent and to discuss, hey, this is how we do, this is what we do things, this and that forth. They'd be more than willing to include that into their little paperwork that they hand out to the staff saying, look, absolutely no parking on these streets. You cannot park there. We were working with engineering from a traffic standpoint. We know that Boaz, you know, there is some concern about traffic and turning and everything of that. TLE's agreed to improve the portion of Boaz around there to make sure that there's a safe way to not prevent cars from being able to block any traffic. We'd be more than willing to explore that further with Rick and engineering and Gabe and everybody else, whatever we need to do, to ensure that whenever they're coming in, that you know allows for proper flow of traffic that goes around.
Right. That sounds good, it really does, but I think we have no parking signs over at Willow Creek too, but they still park there too, so that's kind of, you know.
So
That's all I'm worried
I can't
about.
speak to that.
Oh, I understand
I'm sorry. I can't
I
speak
know.
on the other one or you know, and I know that in the event that if there was an issue there, you know, we could even discuss with the TLE folks from an operational standpoint, you know, from a pickup or drop off of having somebody to make sure that they don't go out there. If there is for self-policing, I mean, I'm sure they'd be willing to work with city and whatever they needed to do that. So.
Mr. Farr?
Yeah, just a few questions along the same traffic impact train of thought. So did we ask you guys to prepare a TIA?
No. We didn't. I don't think we meet any of the traffic thresholds for that.
I think what makes it unique is where it's at, the amount of traffic is there during the 7 to 9 and 4 to 6 time period. 4, I think, is when ILT lets out, 410.
It starts out at 14.
So 410 is when ILT begins to empty out.
And Wayside.
And that traffic corridor becomes very congested. I've just run some real quick numbers. At 190, over a 2-hour period, a peak hour is running about 95 vehicles trip generation. And just rough numbers. So 95, you got 3 exits. So you're roughly 32 per exit possibly in some articulation at peak hour?
I definitely think that's probably, I don't know, I'd have to look at the numbers. I don't have the calculations here. That seems kind of high for realistic numbers of what it is. I mean, I know you're saying 190 students, but given where they are and what that is, that does seem a little high, but I see where you're going.
I just took the 190 and divided it by 2 because we've got a 2-hour period in which they're being dropped off to come up with a rough peak hour number.
Yeah.
And at a rough peak hour number, you've got 63 right turns out of the north. You've got 63 potential right turns out of the south and 63 left turns out of the south. And I'm just thinking through what does that do to that intersection at that time of day. It would help, and in all seriousness, we probably have some traffic counts at that intersection. I'm sure we do. Do we have data, traffic counts at that intersection? I mean, what I'm hearing from at least 3 council members here tonight is that there's some big concern over traffic impact. And I know this is a drop in the bucket in comparison to what ILT is doing, but let me tell you, there are a lot of bruised folks that live in Whisperwood that they are very sensitive to anything that goes in that subdivision, just to the south of where you're building, because of the ILT traffic impact. So what I don't want to create is I don't want to, without doing the research and proving up our due diligence, that this is not going to have the effect that what I'm hearing coming out of council members tonight, without doing the research. I mean, Clay, I hate to say this, but when you came to the P&Z meeting, you weren't prepared. I'm reading the notes, and I'm reading the notes, and I see the angst that grew in that meeting, and I'm seeing the same angst growing in this meeting. And I know you weren't asked. Normally, you're asked to prepare a TIA if Public Works thinks that it's necessary, or if it meets certain thresholds. I think we're in a very unique situation here. I'm not really tonight in a position to vote either way on this without having the information. I'm not in a position to do that. And I have some knowledge of a traffic impact analysis, and I don't think it's fair to you for me to just apply these numbers the way that I'm applying it. I think it would be fair to you to give you the opportunity to go back and put some realistic numbers and thought into it and demonstrate to the body that, it's not a just trust me thing. It's here's the mathematics behind it, here's the calculus we put into it, and we think that it's not going to be the problem you think it might be.
Okay. I answered everybody's question. The same thing that we put in the plans now is what I presented in P&Z. I mean, they asked a lot of questions. We had the same answers. Like I said, we just had the same thing. I don't really have a answer for you on that, but I felt like our plans they haven't changed. We were prepared for it. They just had questions, and I guess they weren't comfortable with the answers. And I don't know if you guys here tonight aren't either. Then I guess we'll have to respect that and see what we can do and where that goes. I know there are certain timelines that we're trying to meet on what we have. So
Clay, I understand, but hear me out. This is all I have to look at.
I understand.
And 3 documented comments. The 3 dissenters had documented comments. The 2 that approved had nothing to say.
I understand.
And the 3 that had something to say all mentioned traffic impact. So it's hard for me sitting here to look at 3 guys that voted it down, and you're asking a supermajority of the council to overrule them, and all 3 of them are saying traffic, traffic, traffic.
And what they were talking about was the main events. They weren't talking about operations.
I wasn't in the room.
I know. I'm letting you know how.
And all I'm saying is that if you had a TIA and you could show me right here where, it's not as bad as it sounds, I would rather have that information in my hand so that I'm not looking at my neighbors and saying, we didn't go the extra mile, we didn't do the due diligence, and this is what we've got.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Mr. Beasley? Anything?
No questions.
Cindy?
I was just going to say I agree with Patrick. We're not saying no, we're just saying we need some more information.
I understand. I understand. I'm not trying to argue with it, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give you a feel of where it was on the meetings. Nobody, I mean, operationally, like I said, I mean, I think we've got the background. I mean, we've got one going up in Fort Worth that's the exact same here. It has, I think, 31 parking spaces, which is almost 10 less than what we have there. It's operating at a fine. It's over at the Presidio area.
And it has 190 students?
Same size building.
But does it have that many students now?
Yeah, it's the same building.
So you
It's
could-
the exact same footprint.
So what I'm saying is it already up to capacity?
No.
Okay.
No, it's
'Cause
just
see, like
open.
I
It's
only
brand
have
new.
65 students right now, and it's, yeah.
Like I said, that capacity, though, is like ultimate of what they have to do. I'm sure you understand with the state regulations. It's not, I don't know that you'll ever have 190 in there. That's just what they're
Oh, they will.
licensed.
Saginaw fills up real fast.
I will.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
Well, you know, you understand.
I do.
So, and it's right on the Fort Worth border, so it's going to be pulling people from Fort Worth, helping out, bringing other people to pay there as well. So, I mean, there's a large base. There's a need for it. I mean, they've done their research on the locations, on the size of where they do that. From a traffic standpoint, I mean, if that's what you guys want, I'll be more than happy to take that back to my group and talk to them and say, hey, guys, look, this is what City Council has asked for. And I'll be very happy to do that and take it back to them. I don't know, you know, as what we have there, I mean, we would love to improve that. We'd love to say, hey, we could add another 15 parking spaces. We'd do that. The challenge is we actually had an alternative site plan here, and I don't know. We can talk to Rick about it because I think we'd have to go to the ZBA. We actually had an alternative site plan, but I'm sure as you're aware, we have for that 190 number that we have to provide 100 square feet of outdoor play area. Typically, with the state regulations, they only require 80 square feet of play area. So there is an additional there, which that's part of it. I mean, we're not saying that we don't want to do it, but we do have a larger than normal playground area, and I'll be honest with you, we didn't quite have that whenever we first presented it to you guys. And we had a significantly larger parking field. But whenever we upgraded to meet the standards and we were working with everybody, the thing that we lost was parking. If we can make the site bigger or alter it or do a different configuration to get traffic out a different way, you know, we would definitely entertain that. But unfortunately, with the way the site is there, it's going to be, you know, we've tried to get it as far away from the intersection, get the access as far away from the intersection to be as, you know, safe and as functional as possible. And like I said, we are going to make some improvements to Boaz to try to help that, to prevent anything as being an issue there. So, but again, more than happy to take that. I mean, we're here to work with you guys as a city. I mean, these guys are wanting to hear. The owner-operator is going to be here. They're going to be local. They're wanting to work with the city, be a part of the city. It's not somebody in Florida that's, you know, getting a rap sheet report every week. It's, you know, it's somebody that's here. So, like I said, if that's what everybody wishes, I'd be more than happy to go do that.
Well, Clay, I will tell you that I would accept, since you do have operating facilities in the Metroplex, rather than doing some random calculation of trip generation, if you can just tell us what is the actual trip generation at the operating facilities, that would be sufficient for me.
Okay. I know we have some that are just getting up off the ground, so I want to make sure that we get something that's accurate. I can get a list of all the ones we have locally here or something and see what numbers they have on that and what their projected, you know, first enrollment or something like that, and see what we can do.
What is our intersection alignment at Bose and Old Decatur now? Are we able to put in a left-hand turn lane, dedicated left-hand turn lane?
No,
Strike
not, well, we could. We have looked at that, and we could. There would be some major relocations of signals and standards, et cetera, so, but it's possible. I will say your site plan, after discussions with Clay and knowing how traffic gets queued up easily at that intersection at the peak hour, you know, they've agreed to put basically a shoulder on the eastbound side to allow traffic to bypass someone trying to make a left turn into the site.
Yeah, I see the shoulder that they're showing on the south side.
Right.
That's definitely helpful because there is a ton of traffic coming from Fort
It is.
Worth
It just
through
takes one car to block it, you know, for miles.
And it's not just a shoulder; it's a 12-foot, so it's a full lane width too. So I mean, you know, we aren't trying to make a little 4-foot shoulder where someone's on the side.
I can see it. It's clearly 10 to 12 feet wide. So I would be more comfortable taking action on this item with a little more data.
It's not a problem. We'd be happy to.
I will just point out, if I could, too, Council, we do have a traffic impact threshold analysis, and the threshold is to require a full TIA traffic impact analysis is 100 trips during the peak hour or 1,000 trips per day. So, I mean, if he comes back using your rough calculation, then a TIA would not have been required. But
I want to say it's in about the, and sorry, this is running in my brain, not doing it. Peak's probably about 70 to 75, if off the top, just from doing this in the past. Can't remember exactly what it is, but we're probably somewhere in there.
You're under the 100.
Yeah,
where our threshold is. I think what makes it so, it's just so sensitive at that intersection that 100 applies very well blanket across the city, but there are some areas of the city where, I mean, it would be sacrilegious to add more cars to an intersection. That's the feeling in the community. So here where we're adding some more cars, it's just nice for us to say it's just not that much, and we can prove it up.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be adding cars.
Oh, I know.
I mean, but anything that goes there will be adding cars. I do. I mean, I'm not trying to say, there won't be anything, because
I understand.
It's more people. It's a busy intersection. Hopefully we'll catch a lot of those people that are already driving down that road, would be the thought, is that whoever's driving there, instead of them driving this way to their daycare and then driving back down Boaz or Old Decatur, they can stop, and that's part of on their way to and from work type trip would be the ultimate goal. Is that, yes, we will, I mean, but there will be some that would be specifically going just here, but a lot of that, and part of their market is trying to capture where's a path, where's a route, where you pick it up on their way, which I'm sure you kind of understand. There's something very good on that location. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like that's what we need to do. And so, I mean, I guess, I don't know if I need to make that request to table, or if that's what you guys are wanting to do, or if that's just the move.
We're still in a public hearing, so I'd like you to, if any requests, I'd like you to sit down. I've got a couple of other people want to speak, and we may call you back up, though, Mr. Moore. So we are in a public hearing, open for anybody. I do have one request, Peter Drolet, I believe. So, Drolet, I'm sorry, sir. Please.
Thank you for your time this evening. I am a relatively new resident. My name is Peter Drolet. My wife and I live, we are going to be right in the middle. That's our backyard that this facility is going to be going up on. I'd just like to add a couple of key things that you're thinking about right now, is that on Old Decatur, that's also the entrance, the major entrance to our neighborhood. And it has gotten quite lively over the last year, just getting across the street and going down. We are, and I'm speaking for myself and for others that I could get a hold of that back up into the neighborhood right there that would be across our fence. We are not anti this coming into our backyard, but we're extremely concerned. Today, as I went to go downtown Fort Worth, just trying to leave my neighborhood, you have to consider there's not just traffic coming up Bose to where we are. Across the street now, there is new facilities that is going to be impacting us greatly, because it stopped today for 3 or 4 lights. We were gridlocked, couldn't go because there was construction turning, and I understand that is going to cure itself to a certain amount, but it's also going to aggravate the situation. Okay, so, and I'm sorry if I'm not educated enough on the documentation, but having a drop down lane or something that you can clear traffic, Bose, that's a country style 2-lane road. There is no place for you to park. There is no place for you to put a car there, or you're going to sink into the side. We love it the way it is now, not asking it to be changed, but it has to be considered. The intersection there of Bose and Old Decatur, you're taking time. If you're coming from, let's say, Boat Club down to come down that way, there are times of the day you can see traffic as far as you can look up and see as traffic is stopped trying to get across. I would ask the other consideration to be that when people are picking up their children, we all had children, they got to go, we got to go, the time of picking up is elongated. It is not just around a school time. It goes on until whatever the closing time of the facility is going to be. I promise you there's going to be people pulling up at the last minute. It will elongate that time. Okay. Some of the other concerns, and y'all may have already discussed this, we are as neighbors are very concerned about the lighting and the sound that backs up to our pool. And I'm sure that that's been considered, but those are some of the other concerns that we feel and really have the angst about having that much around you there, and nobody wants light standards turned towards your house. I'm not sure, I couldn't see from the diagrams how their lighting is going to be done in the parking lot, but that's something that we are concerned about, and we hope that you would consider as you make these decisions. But I think our biggest is we'd like to be able to exit our neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Right now, going out Knowles, because I'm not originally from Saginaw, but I'm from the Mid-Cities, and we've been gone for 15 years. And I learned to fly out at Hicks Field, and the great thing about Saginaw was you could always find out where you were, just look around, and you could see where to come back to. Well, that's all changed. It's grown up, and we're absolutely glad to be here. But it is a very congested area just trying to get out to go back to the freeway. As y'all discussed earlier this evening, being able to see what the train traffic is going to do, there's times I would love to just go down the main boulevard and go out to the freeway, or you have to go back out. You know, there are times you're going to be forced, you have to go back out Old Decatur. With this, there is going to be substantial traffic just trying to stop and go in. I'm literally not, I'm guessing, not 100 feet up off the main entrance of my entire neighborhood. So, again, not anti, but we hope it's well thought through. There's many other things that could have gone in that space that would have been less preferable. But we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Drolet.
Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate you pronouncing it Bose. That's a pet peeve of mine. It is Bose.
It is Bose.
It is Bose. Please don't argue with me. It's what it is. I know the W.J. Bose family very well, and that's how they pronounce it.
That's right.
So moving forward. All right. We're still in a public hearing. Anyone else would like to speak? Now's the time. You don't have to turn in a card. Just approach the microphone and say your piece. So. Okay. I don't see anyone else. Staff, anything else we need to add, you would like to add to this item?
No, sir.
Okay. What I've heard from council is a couple different things. Let's see what we can summarize. I've heard that we might want to get a traffic study, get some more traffic information, and maybe table this item. Yep. Is that the will of the council? Okay. I think you understand what we're asking for. Are we pretty clear, Mr. Moore?
Correct. I mean, one thing, and just to give one little tidbit, if I don't mind,
sure,
just to respond to the resident that's here today. I mean, one thing, I understand that there's traffic there today. I mean, one thing that I can't stand up here and say is that we're going to make it better of what the existing conditions are. We can try to show you guys how we'll impact it, but I mean, if there's traffic capacity issues or anything like that, that's going to be caused by anything that develops here. It wouldn't just be us or just other things. And there's other things that could come in here, not saying that we would, but I'm just saying there's other things that would generate a lot more traffic or be, maybe more detrimental to the neighborhood if it was a fast food restaurant or a gas station or something of that nature, which, we're not presenting. We're here talking about a daycare today, but we will go through the traffic. We can present information for you guys, but if there's a traffic situation there today that, Bose, I apologize, is a little bit, if it's a level service of F right now, there's not going to be anything that we can do to make it a C or D or improve the operational facilities of it. And so if that's the case, I mean, if that's what we're looking for, then I don't know that we really are going to be able to present anything like, better information. But as far as like just how we're going to impact it, I mean, we obviously want to do that. Obviously, they mentioned the site lighting. We'll work with the site lighting. They're required by ordinance to be full cutoff there, and we'll obviously work for all that type of stuff. And like you said, I know timing, 6:30 is last pickup, so there's not going to be anything outside late going on at 8 o'clock or late in the evening times. Obviously, kids will be out playing in the outdoor areas when weather's available. When it is good weather and things of that. So there will be some things out there, but from a lighting standpoint, we'll work to make sure that we have our photometrics done properly with full cutoffs and to meet all those requirements. So there's not a bright light shining directly into somebody's backyard.
All right. Thank you, sir. Nothing else to add, council? All right, then at 7:28, I take us out of a public hearing, and I will entertain a motion on this topic.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we table this item for further information.
I second.
Second. All those in favor of tabling the item? All those opposed? All right.
Could I just ask for clarification? Would staff then reschedule this for consideration once the information is received. So this is an indefinite table, not to a date certain.
That was the intent of my motion.
Right. There's no timing. It's just whenever is available and we can schedule. So.
And we would request that because I don't know exactly how long it's going to take to get traffic counts. I mean, there's a lot that's involved in doing that. I don't think I can get that in. I mean, I think the December 17th meeting got canceled, but I mean, either way, it's going to take me a little bit to get that information.
That's fair. Absolutely fair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, moving forward. Item number 9. I got to pull it up. Item number 9 is consideration and action regarding resolution 2019-21, election of members to the board of directors of the Tarrant Appraisal District. For that, City Manager Gabe Rayum.
Mayor and Council, in your packet, there's some background information about the election of representatives to the appraisal district. I really don't have anything to add other than the votes allotted to our city are based on a formula that's outlined there, and however you choose to apportion those votes is purely up to your discretion. So.
And if you look in our packet, there's a note in here addressed to the council talking about we have to have this done before December 15th. Also mentioned that there are no write-in candidates available, so the ballot is the ballot. And also we have 10 votes. We can distribute them as we choose, to all the one or spread them out however we would like. Council, any questions, any discussion?
Do we know any of these?
Well, go ahead, Mary.
I remember when we did this last year, I think somebody did know somebody, and I think we gave all our votes to that person. But the only thing I could think of doing is maybe to spread out. They're nominated by certain entities, and there's quite a bit of repetition in who nominated them. So if we voted for not, spread those votes out to where we wouldn't get all white settlement nominations. We wouldn't get all, repetition of the nomination.
You make a good point. There is one of the nominated folks in the audience, and he has put in a card. So, Mr. Losada, would you like to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Gary Losada. I will address your comment in a minute, but I am here this evening to ask you to consider voting for me for the Tarrant Appraisal Board of Directors. On Tuesday, October 1st of this year, the City of Colleyville, by resolution, nominated me for the TAD Board. You'll see my name on there. I do believe you have my resume and my testimony that I presented, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. I met with Mayor Newton prior to the council meeting, and I presented my resume and a copy of my testimony, which was before the Texas Senate Property Tax Reform Committee hearing, which was held in Arlington on April 27, 2016. I believe he was most impressed. My testimony came from serving 6 years on the Tarrant Appraisal Review Board. I was a panel chair for all 6 years and witnessed many issues which are outlined in my testimony. I was involved in thousands of hearings, and I know intimately what's happening, or not happening, if you will, at the TAD district. I'm not part of the good old boy system. When I was at Stanford University, I was taught to make decisions on my own and think on my own. TAD's Board of Directors needs individuals on the board who know what is going on and can think on their own and introduce change. I'm uniquely qualified to be considered for this position. Rather than bore you with the whole list of things and accomplished in my life, I will just give you a few. I have a master's degree in education from Stanford University and a bachelor's degree from University of San Francisco. I lived in Grand Prairie for 10 years. I lived in Arlington for more than 20 years. I currently reside in Southlake, where I've lived for the last 6 years. I have owned and operated 2 businesses. I have served on blue chip committees with the superintendent at Arlington ISD. I've held positions as assistant to the city manager and assistant to the superintendent of schools. I also have worked in the corporate world as director of human resources for LTV Kentron. I have much more to tell you. I don't want to take all of your time. However, I would like to say a couple of things. Number one, the Eagle Mountain Saginaw School District thought enough of my qualifications to pledge all 168 votes. I would ask you to do the same. I believe you have 10 votes. Ms. Copeland, to respond to your comment, when 10 votes are the only votes available, it can make the difference in representation or not. When you start splitting them, it waters it down to a level that's almost non-existent. I urge you not to do that. If you chose to vote and say, I'm not going to give you any votes, that's your prerogative. I accept that. But to split them would give you less of a say in what happens in the government. So I urge you not to do that. The other thing I would tell you is that I'm very interested in this position. I am retired. I'm, like I said, uniquely qualified. I would go before you now and ask you how many candidates have come before you now or in the past seeking this position and your votes. I'm committed. I don't care much about who has 450 votes or has 2 votes. You're all taxing entities. I will represent everybody equally. Now, that's not the way it's set up with the voting process, but it certainly can be in decision making. So I urge you to consider that. The other thing that I would tell you is that I have no hidden agendas. I'm pretty much transparent. What you see is what you get. And I guess I'll turn it over to you for questions, because you may have some particular questions that you might have to ask about me or the process. Be happy to respond to any of those.
Council, any questions? Mary?
Well, I would like to say that I am impressed that you took the time to come before us to let us know how interested you are in having the position, and that is rare.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that.
Yep.
And I
Remember, it's not
understand,
paid.
I understand your point about we only have 10 votes, so breaking it up would be almost like we don't have a vote.
Oh, you will if I get in.
So thank you.
Anybody else? Another question?
I appreciate you showing up.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
I'll stay right here in case you have any questions.
I will mention I got a letter from Mayor Newton of Colleyville, or of Colleyville, and he also called me. I know Mayor Newton. Used to work with him, and he's a good guy, recommending Mr. Lasada. So I don't know any of the other candidates. Mr. Lasada is the only one that has shown up. He's shown up a couple of times. I talked to him, spoke to him before council meeting one time earlier this year. So, council, what is your prerogative?
Can we give him all 10 votes?
We can. We can do whatever we like.
Can we do what?
Give him all 10 votes?
I see.
We can. That's our choice. What would council like to do? You okay with that? I'll entertain a motion then.
I make a motion that we give Mr. Lasada all 10 votes.
Second.
Patrick, second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Oh, that's what you
Wish we had more votes, but that's what we got.
Just remember, no more than 3% at a time.
Yes.
All right, moving forward, item number 10 is executive session. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072, deliberation regarding real property at 7:37. We will adjourn for discussion on executive session. We will return to adjourn the meeting. Oh, there you go. Thank you, buddy. You're the official timekeeper. I appreciate that.
We have a quorum.
At
Mr. Mayor, move we adjourn.
8:01, we return from executive session. Patrick?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Right hand.
8:01, we're out of here.
Evening. Thank you, guys.